All right, guys, I know you've probably seen a few reviews here and there about Fatebringer. Yes, it's back in the game. Vault of Glass is dropping it, and between spoils as well as challenge mode, there's never been a better time to get a Fatebringer hand cannon. It's a 140 round per minute hand cannon in that adaptive frame archetype. It's got some pretty impressive stats. It's present in the kinetic slot, and it's got a number of very unique traits that we're going to be going over today, guys. Essentially, we have 4 roles, as I too want to know, is Fatebringer the hand cannon I should be using in both PvP and PvE? By the way, someone commented the other day, Cross, why do you even bring up PvP? Bro, that's the beauty of Destiny for me. I like playing both sides, both PvP and PvE. And one of the most beautiful things is when a weapon is both deadly inside of PvE as well as PvP. Now let's get started. Our first role on the list, this one was by far our most lethal role. It came with small bore for that bump there in range as well as stability, accurized rounds for that increase in range, tunnel vision, such a fantastic trait. Essentially, reloading after defeating a target greatly increases target acquisition and aim down sight speed for a short duration. One of the best traits to pair this with, and we talked about this on the Trials SMG, is of course kill clip. Reloading after a kill grants increased damage. Now that increase in damage bumps it up from 70 damage per crit to 93 damage per crit. Not enough to 2-tap, but still good damage. The main takeaway for kill clip on a 140 is of course the forgiveness. What I love about tunnel vision though and kill clip together is that there's no downtime. There's no confliction there of perks. One perk isn't up and activated while the other one is on cooldown. No, after getting a kill and reloading, you now have a weapon that literally aims itself and simultaneously does 33% more damage. But as much as I like lethal rolls, we have to understand that nothing here is helping you on the front end. Everything is dependent on you getting the kill first. Some weapons, it's not a problem. Shayura, not necessarily a problem. Fatebringer, let me just level with you guys. I love Palindrome. I like Waking Vigil. It's a fun one. Les likes Finite for some unknown reason. Although I have played with a few roles that even I am going to probably re-review that hand cannon. But Fatebringer does have a little buck to it, at least in my experience. Maybe it's visual. Maybe it's just in my head. I don't know. Maybe it's just got a really fat tip and I just can't see past it when it's popping up and down. Maybe it's the muzzle flash. All I'm trying to tell you is that some hand cannons easily get the 3-tap. Fatebringer with no perks helping it whatsoever on the front end, I found kind of struggled. It just kind of struggled for me, guys. It's almost like there was a reason why Fatebringer wasn't necessarily top dog inside of PvP back inside of Destiny 1. Maybe it was just by its design. Maybe it's just supposed to be a PvE weapon, which takes us to our next role. Because I don't give up, fellas. I believe every weapon has a fighting chance. Now, this role consisted of a perk that not only helped it on the front end, but simultaneously helped it in its dueling capabilities. And that's actually this role right here, guys. The main takeaway, explosive payload for that area of effect detonation on impact, and opening shot for that increase in accuracy and range on the opening shot of an attack. Now, opening shot essentially maxes out the range. And of course, the accuracy benefits is pretty extreme. We talked about it before on shotguns, most notably things like Fellwinter's and Astral Horizon. Opening shot, though, with a well-rolled Fatebringer, as in good range stats, kicks that range up on the first shot to around 37 meters. And of course, if you got like max range, 37.5 meters. We're talking like a meter past a max range roll palindrome with rangefinder. It's impressive, but understand that's just on the first shot. Afterwards, your following shots do not have that increase in range. Therefore, the range you're probably going to be sitting at is around 33 meters. Again, this is on the high range scale. We're talking like 80 plus range. Take Trav's roll here, for instance. This is actually another roll similar, but his had max range at 83 with both full bore accurized rounds and of course the same trait combination that we're using here on top of a ranged masterwork. The downside is when you do commit to things like full bore, you do start to hurt things like handling and stability, which is why normally I recommend things like Hammerforged rifling, where you just get that bump there in range with nothing really hurting your stability or handling, especially now in this sandbox where stability does matter on your hand cannons. Now, what I was hoping from this roll was that this was going to correct the field that I was telling you about, the inconsistencies that I ran into with the kill clip roll, but the same thing kind of crept up here, guys. Fatebringer, despite the hype, despite it having like a 4.3 rating right now inside of Crucible and Light GG. Look, maybe I'm just crazy, but there's other hand cannons in this archetype that I would gladly take over Fatebringer inside of PvP. Because this was the role. This was supposed to be the role that made me go, oh, okay, there's that consistency. There's that flinch. There's that payload that's messing my enemy up, which it did. Nothing against explosive payload and nothing against opening shot. That first shot was clean. The dueling capabilities, good. Stat-wise, you can can achieve a range stat surpassing that of a Adept Palindrome. Logically, everything here should say that Fatebringer is meta. However, between our most lethal roll as well as our consistent roll, I just wasn't that impressed. Now, don't listen to me, man. I like Wake and Vigil, but I really wanted to like Fatebringer inside of PvP, but I just wasn't feeling it. Can it get you the kill? Yes. But would I use it in a 1v1 against less? Not if I'm trying to win. And again, logically, it doesn't make sense. Everything here on the stats, on the spread, its aim assist, its recoil direction, its range stat, its default stability, everything screams amazing. And then it wasn't. Is there another PvP combination here that might surprise me? Perhaps. Maybe a killing win roll. Maybe killing win opening shot. Maybe Eye of the Storm. Or maybe I just need to get good. I think that's it. I just need to get good, fellas. Get good! But overall, my experience with it in PvP, not for me. I'll use it just to use it, but that's about it. I felt like I was fighting the weapon too much. And the way it recoiled, like I know its recoil direction is 98. Surprisingly, it kind of kicked and then kind of went right a little bit. It's like I had to swing to the left. For like my mouse and keyboard players, you'll know what I'm talking about when you play with it more, but it's got an aggressive jerk that you almost have to wrestle with to kind of throw back over your enemy's face. What it reminds me of is before when hand cannons actually outshot their animation. This was like a shadow keep change, so almost a couple years from now. But essentially, guys, the fire rate of our hand cannons, the animation was not keeping up with it, which kind of resulted in like overshooting. I mean, obviously not an issue if you got aimbot, but for the rest of us, it's kind of an issue. And Fatebringer kind of feels similar, like it didn't quite receive that rework. But again, could just be a get good problem, which takes us to our PVE rolls. PVE players, you'll be happy to know that this hand cannon is everything you want it to be. And we're gonna start with our sexy roll right here, a pendant mag for that bump there in magazine, rewind rounds, which we're gonna talk about a bunch here. When this weapon's magazine is empty, it refills from reserves based on the number of hits. So think subsistence without the requirement to get a kill. And its final perk there is Firefly. Precision kills with this weapon increases reload speed and causes the target to explode, dealing solar damage to nearby enemies. We went over this perk the other day, by the way, when talking about Hung Jury. Firefly, yes, with Wrath of Rasputin can spawn ward mine cells. I know it's a kinetic weapon, but it states right there that it does do solar damage. Now, Firefly not only does AoE damage, but upon precision kills, also increases the reload speed for your weapon. So no need for things like Outlaw here, which is extremely beneficial here as it leaves that first column open to, of course, things like rewind rounds. Now, like we mentioned the other day about Firefly though, Dragonfly spec does not increase its damage, nor does it increase its AoE blast radius. So no benefits come at all from a Dragonfly spec mod being applied here to a weapon with Firefly. Of course though, you can still rock things like backup mag or even a spec mod, and considering it's a kinetic weapon, the AoE damage from Firefly actually does more damage than the AoE damage of Dragonfly. That is, of course, without Dragonfly spec. Dragonfly spec does still do more damage than Firefly. All right, we're getting really caught up on Firefly. Let's talk about the big part. Rewind rounds. How does it work? Well, essentially, shooting a weapon and landing shots results in this weapon when the magazine is empty to immediately refill. Now, it doesn't refill the entire thing, which takes us to the law of rewind. Rewind only requires one thing amongst landing your shots. You can miss shots 1 through 10 and land only the last couple of shots and still proc rewind rounds. But your final round has to land. It has to land on something. And I mentioned something because when messing around with rewind rounds, turns out sometimes Warmon cells would actually proc on that final shot. So even if I looked around and noticed that there was no target around me and I shot a Warmon cell, it will auto refill my weapon. Another thing about rewind rounds, there doesn't appear to be a cooldown, as in there doesn't seem to be a moment in which I shoot a target and I wait for an extended period of time and then shoot another target, empty my mag, that the perk doesn't proc. It still procs. Now it may change depending on like if you move to another area or something, but the main thing I'm trying to get to you is the game registers that you landed a hit, and that's that. Even though it doesn't show it down there at the bottom left hand of the screen, it doesn't reflect that. Rewind is definitely at work. Now, why rewind instead of subsistence? Especially considering that subsistence got a buff this season. It no longer hurts your reserves. Well, number one, subsistence is not available here on Fatebringer. Shabam. However, even in a perfect world, I do want to bring that up because even though subsistence is good inside of Grandmasters or even Masters, inside of content where the ads are super thick or a champion is super thick and you are just sitting there constantly unloading into something, getting a kill may not actually happen. Therefore, rewound rounds is the more preferred perk. Something I get really annoyed about, especially when rocking builds that have Warmont cells. When I would spawn a Warmont cell, normally I would have to reload first, right? I would have to reload first to then shoot the Warmont cell. However, with this, especially with Firefly, if you spawn a Warmont cell, you can immediately look to that Warmont cell and unload on it, proc rewind rounds, explode the Warmont cell, thus the train continues. It's actually a fantastic perk, guys. The question that I really wanted to know though was if rewind rounds and Firefly proc together, as in if I got a single precision shot kill and it does an AoE explosion and hits a group of enemies, will it result in rewind rounds counting that as one hit or multiple hits? My experience, no, it still counts as just one hit. Granted, there was times that I found like rewind was kind of funky and it just gives you ammo to give you ammo. Again, its only main law is to land some of your shots, but the main one is to land that final shot. If you do not land that final shot, even if you land, for instance, if you got a magazine of 11 or 12, you land 11 rounds, but you miss that final round, well then rewind rounds does not work for you. That final shot is the most important thing here. This was a really good roll. I actually really like this inside of PvE, and I even consider maybe trying things like rewind rounds and adrenaline junkie, or maybe frenzy with rewind rounds. Overall, I do like rewind, but was this the PvE God roll? This takes us to the iconic Fatebringer roll. This was essentially the original Destiny 1 roll, and we had to review it here, as back inside of Destiny 1, you could roll with explosive rounds, Outlaw, and Firefly, which is essentially this roll: explosive payload for that increase in area of effect detonation on impact, and Firefly together. Now, I know this is the iconic roll, and many people will see this roll and go, there it is. There's Fatebringer we know and love. And inside of PvE, explosive payload is just such a good perk, guys. Like when it comes to stunning overload champions, because it does that area of effect detonation, it counts as like multiple hits. Therefore, explosive payload, time payload, pretty much all your payload perks are way more consistent when it comes to stunning champions. Now, explosive payload does not spawn Warmont cells. Even here on Fatebringer, I got a number of just like body shot kills or just explosive payload kills. No, in order to actually spawn Warmont cells with Fatebringer, you still have to proc Firefly, do that solar AoE damage to then spawn Warmont cells. I think overall, this was a very nice trait combination, and I would definitely take it, guys. I think overall, you're just gonna have to decide for PvE, if you're looking for like the best trait combinations for Firefly, what do you want? Do you want something to help you stun champions with more consistency and simultaneously does a little AoE damage when you land precision kills? Or do you just want a weapon that can just clear ads without ever reloading? And that's really the trait combinations there with Firefly. And I'm not overlooking Frenzy. I know I'm not really talking about Frenzy, just Firefly was like the original perk there on Fatebringer, which is why we're so focused on it. A combination though that I have not been able to track a roll down for is Osmosis and Firefly. I don't know if this is gonna break the game or how this even works, but essentially Osmosis, when you use your grenade ability, this changes your weapon damage to match your subclass that you are using. But wait, Firefly does solar AoE damage. So how does that work? Will the solar damage convert to your matching subclass? Again, Fatebringer back inside of Destiny did arc damage. If I was rocking an arc class and I throw my grenade with Osmosis, will my Firefly explosions now result in arc AoE damage? I don't know, guys. I don't know. I want to know. And if you have this roll, let me know. Other combinations though that are interesting: Osmosis, Adrenaline Junkie together. In burn activities, this trait combination is second to none, considering you'll be rocking a subclass that of course is getting increased damage throughout that burn, and your weapon's now going to be doing more damage. Honestly, a great trait combination, especially for those rocking grenade-based builds and for things like lost sectors where there are burns. So guys, that is your Fatebringer review. I know this was a long one. I kind of just wanted to dive into as many rolls as we can, with of course that one-off roll that I'm still interested in. Overall, I think Fatebringer is a very good hand cannon for PvE. I like it. I do. For PvP, if you use it and you love it and you think it's the best weapon inside of Crucible, do not let me steer you away from it. But from my experience, Fatebringer has got some hefty competitions, not only against 120s, but against other 140s within its own archetype. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.